lights on in case you're coming back. Do you think of me? Sometimes I wanna believe in that. 'Cause I think about you. I think that I'm gonna do. Just tell me now. Do you think of me?
A minute until midnight. I'm just wondering where you at. Just thought I'd call and wish you good night. I left my key under the mat. I don't get anything done, you're stuck on my mind. I keep on missing your touch, missing your vibe. This feeling might go when I say what we had. Won't you come on over? Don't you miss me too? Give it all you got, babe. Give it all you got, baby. I'd rather try than lose you. Give it all you got, baby. Give me all you got.
everyone. Thanks so much for being here. We're just about to start the live stream, so it would be great if we could do like a last coffee run and then come on, sit down so we can. Please. Yes, please. If you want food, there is food to get.
Sideways, up or down, it's all the same. We will do it. We will do it. Don't leave already. Oh no, no. I'm not that steady. Don't go too far now. We can do it. We can do it. When we indecisive games and we don't pull them both ways. We can do it. We can do it. I know we'll find the missing frame. Sideways, up or down, it's all the same. We will do it. We will do it. And we will do it. And we will do it. Oh baby, why can't you see that I can't just see that I'm dancing next to you? I've been trying to get to you. If you only could see me too. Just when we need you. I'm moving up to you. The music is fading. I want you tonight. Let's make it happen. I wanna love you tonight. Your body next to mine, and I won't waste your time. I need to make it happen, baby, with you. Oh baby, why can't you see that I can't just see that I'm dancing next to you? I've been trying to get to you. If you only could see me too. Oh baby, why can't you see that I can't just see that I'm dancing next to you? I've been trying to get to you. If you only could see me too. You and me together in the night. You'll see. You know that I want you. Know that I need you now. Your body next to mine, and I won't waste your time. I need to make it happen, baby, with you. Oh baby, why can't you see? Can't you see that I'm dancing
Good morning. Please feel free to finish getting your food, but take your seats when you have a moment. Good morning, and welcome to the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College for this live presentation of the 2022 Campaign for Legal Services Kickoff Breakfast. My name is Courtney Hers, and I'm a member of the campaign's Leadership Council and a member of the Board of Directors for New Hampshire Legal Assistance, which, along with 603 Legal Aid, benefits from the campaign's work. Thank you to our hosts at St. Anselm College. It is very nice to be together with some of my fellow legal aid supporters after 2 years of virtual events. And thank you, everyone watching remotely from your homes or offices, for making time to bring this event into your morning. I'd also like to thank my colleagues at She and Finney for making the campaign a priority, both as premier sponsor of this event and by encouraging my involvement with this work. I follow in a long tradition of other members of the firm who have served as board and council members, advancing access to justice in New Hampshire for many years. We are joined today by the Chief Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court, Gordon MacDonald, Manchester Mayor Joyce Craig, and by many notable representatives of our leading supporting businesses and law firms, and virtually by Douglas Emhoff, the second gentleman of the United States of America. But first, I'm honored to welcome Attorney General John M. Formella.
Good morning. I want to start just by, as we kick off this 2022 campaign, by thanking everyone for being here, but also, recognizing all the work that folks have done in past years. I think standing up here to talk about the importance of the Campaign for Legal Services in a room like this is the very definition of preaching to the choir. So I would be remiss if I didn't start by thanking those for all the work done in the past. This room is full of people who understand why we're here and understand the problem that we are trying to solve with the work that we undertake with this campaign. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but I also, given the time that we're in and some of the things we've gone through the last few years, just reflect a little bit on the importance of the Campaign for Legal Services in the moment that we're sitting in right now. It goes without saying that this is sort of an extraordinary time. It's a crazy time. There's a lot going on. We are coming out of a pandemic, which has had, just incomprehensible impacts on every aspect of society. And the various impacts it's had, I think, will not be fully understood for a long time. Conflict in Europe, inflation, supply challenges, political polarization, those are all challenges we're facing right now. And I think, when we're in a time like this and facing these types of challenges, it can bring out sort of some negative tendencies in human nature that we all, experience and we all fall into ruts that we all fall into. And one of the things I think about is this. How often have you heard someone say, or have you said in conversation, something to the effect of, that's a big problem. Oh yes, I agree, that's a big problem. That's a big issue we're facing. And you spend some time talking about the problem, defining the problem, and then you say something to the effect of, well, somebody smarter than me is gonna have to figure that out. Or I'm not qualified to figure that out, so hopefully somebody who knows more about the problem will do something about it. We all can kind of fall into that rut. As lawyers, we can fall into a somewhat similar rut, but that is that we are highly educated and we love to analyze problems deeply, think about them, but we can get disconnected, I think, from the impact on real people. So this campaign and this effort, what is so great about it in this moment is that it is in many ways kind of a counter movement, among many others, but a counter movement and a rejection of those negative tendencies that we can fall into, I think, when we're facing major problems. Why is that? Because the campaign recognizes that the access to justice gap is perhaps, it is an example of the sort of devastating reality that when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to justice, the people who need these types of things most often have the hardest time accessing them. So we recognize that problem. And I think we also recognize that we have not fully solved that problem, and I don't think we've figured out how we're going to solve that problem comprehensively. But what the Campaign for Legal Services represents is an acknowledgement that while we may not have completely solved the problem, we have great organizations like New Hampshire Legal Assistance, like 603 Legal Aid, who are working every day to close that gap more and more. Just doing incredible work, which is more important than ever before. It's not just about needing legal representation in court. We know that's important. We know that if someone's facing a crisis in their life, a victim of domestic violence who needs a protective order, a tenant who's been thrown out of their home and had their security deposit taken, or someone else who needs relief in court, these organizations work with those folks. But they also work with people, and I see this in government, they work with people who may have options available to them, may have resources available to them, may have benefits that they're entitled to, but they either don't know about them or they don't know how to access them. So these organizations do incredible work on that front. And this campaign is so great because it enables all of us, whether if we don't have the time, we may not have the ability to take pro bono cases. We may not be lawyers. We may be other members of the community, members of business. It allows all of us to come together and support efforts to address a major problem. And we do that while recognizing that we still have to come up with a more comprehensive solution at some point. I think about this a lot, having had the incredible opportunity to have some great public service opportunities in the last few years, but it is so important to not be discouraged by the fact that what you're doing may not solve a problem 100%. It is easy to get bogged down in this notion that, well, this isn't going to completely solve the problem, so I'm not even going to spend time on that. I'm going to continue to think about what the comprehensive solution is. This campaign is a rejection of that. This campaign is a recognition that while we continue to develop more comprehensive solutions, in the meantime, we'll do all we can to close, whether it's the access to justice gap, access to healthcare that we need, access to anything, to close that gap as much as we can while we're thinking of a more comprehensive solution. So in that spirit, I hope that in addition to the work we've done in the past, we will embark on this campaign with a recognition that efforts like this are more important than ever in the times that we live in today, given the issues we're facing. The people who need the services that these organizations provide need them more than they ever have before. We saw that through COVID. There were a lot of resources available during COVID, a lot of benefits available to people, but it was a real struggle, and we're still struggling to connect folks who need resources with those resources. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank the organizations that do this great work. I myself will be making a contribution, and I'm going to phrase this a little subtly because I think some might think it's a problem for the Attorney General to ask anyone for money. So this is the way I'm going to put it. There are a lot of people who can contribute to this campaign with their time and their efforts. But for those of us who may not have the time but have the means, you can be far more helpful by writing a check than by not writing a check. And so I'll leave it at that. Thank you again for being here. Welcome. Here's to a great campaign in 2022.
Thank you, General Formella, for your commitment to equal access to justice. Thank you also to our sponsors for this morning's breakfast, including Bernstein Shore, the Sidoric Group of Steward Partners, McLean Middleton, Preddy Flaherty, Nixon Peabody, Fidelity, and many more. Your support enables New Hampshire's legal aid programs to help people experiencing economic hardship when they face problems impacting their most basic human needs: the need for a home, the need for food, the need for safety. In ordinary times, legal aid clients navigate complex, highly technical bureaucracies. During the pandemic, an array of new systems emerged that no one had ever navigated before. Our programs set about interpreting them and translating them for the community, including their client communities and their partners in the human services sector. These are some of the ways New Hampshire legal aid programs have helped clients throughout the pandemic. We helped people appeal wrongful decisions in unemployment cases, protecting their access to federal unemployment funds to pay for housing, food, medication, and utilities during the worst months of the pandemic. We worked with partners to create a new email filing option for domestic violence survivors who needed protection during a time when they were more isolated and at increased risk for further violence. And in 2021, as the world began adjusting to the new normal and special pandemic protections ended, we created an innovative courthouse-based eviction prevention program. Together, NHLA and 603 Legal Aid set up shop in the state's busiest courthouses to help tenants access federal assistance, get caught up on rent, and stay in their homes. In just 8 months, we estimate we were able to protect more than 200 households from evictions through these clinics. Several members of the staff from NHLA and 603 Legal Aid are here today. Would you please stand? Thank you all. Since this campaign started more than 20 years ago, a small group of firms have led by example through their generous support of this vital work. These are our pacesetter firms who make charitable gifts of $500 per or more per attorney. Members of our pacesetter law firms for 2022 are here with us today. Would you please stand so we can recognize your commitment and generosity? Ansel and Anderson, Gallagher, Callahan, and Gartrell, Orrin Reno, and Sheehan, Finney, Bass, and Green. In what has become a bit of a tradition for this event, now is the moment the campaign asks that you at home, and for the first time in a while, you here in the room with me today, to follow the lead of our pace setters and join us this year. Join us in honoring Marty Van Oot, today's recipient of the John E. Tobin Jr. Justice Award. Join us in recognizing the value of the work NHLA and 603 Legal Aid do every day. And join us in making more great work possible through your charitable support. Those of you who have been with us for this effort in the past, please stay tuned. The instructions are a little different than before. We have been offered our largest ever challenge this morning from the Sidoric Group of Steward Partners to honor the leadership of the incredible women you'll be hearing from later this morning. Tom, Casey, Brittany, Erica, and the rest of the team at the Sidoric Group have offered to match, dollar for dollar, the first $7,500 raised today. I hope we can rise to their challenge, and I think we can do it. Here's how. Start a new text message. In the to field, type 802-255-8944. In the message, put the word kickoff, all one word, and then put a $sign and your pledge. Then type a space and your name. The instructions are also up on the screens. We'll see pledges come up here and here, and we'll check back in a few moments to see how we're doing. I am now very pleased to introduce a former chair of this campaign, Chief Justice Gordon MacDonald, to present our annual John E. Tobin Jr. Justice Award.
Thank you very much. Good morning. First, I want to acknowledge the presence with us of Senior Associate Justice Gary Hicks. And on behalf of all of our colleagues on the Supreme Court, we want to congratulate the campaign for a fantastic event this morning and to wish you the very, very best as we kick off the campaign this year. We also want to join in welcoming to New Hampshire virtually, the second gentleman of the United States, Doug Emhoff, and we admire his outstanding and longstanding commitment to expanding legal aid to those in need, and we're grateful that he is helping us in our collective efforts to expand access to justice here in New Hampshire. To the business at hand, I will say this is a special moment for me. I get to talk about two friends who have made an enormous difference to our state and to me personally. The first is John Tobin, who is with us today, and for whom this award is named. John is an extraordinarily talented lawyer who approached cases and causes with great skill, tenacity, civility, good humor, and complete integrity. He devoted his entire professional career to serving the public's interest. And no cause was greater than providing civil legal services to those in need. I spent many years watching John from afar, but as was mentioned, I chaired this campaign for several years, several very challenging years economically, and got to know John on a one-to-one basis, and we became friends. He is a thoroughly decent, caring, and kind person, and I will forever be grateful for the gift of his friendship. Based on these qualities, John is a model New Hampshire lawyer, and so is our honoree. I did not know Marty Van Oot when I showed up at her firm as a second-year associate. I quickly came to admire her exceptional talents and skills as a litigator. She is a formidable and highly effective advocate, and I so valued the opportunity to work with her and to learn from her. Among her many professional achievements, which are listed in the program today, she is a fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers. But of all that I learned from Marty, the most important and sustaining lesson was her truly extraordinary commitment to serving our profession, to serving the public, and to serving the cause of justice for all. Among her many civic commitments, she served as president of the Bar Association. She was a longtime member of the Professional Conduct Committee, a longtime member of the Board of Bar Examiners. She had important leadership roles in many of our leading charitable institutions. She taught law at both Vermont Law School and the University of New Hampshire. She's been an important role model and mentor for so many of our women lawyers, and along with Judge Sue Carbon, she was the first recipient of the Morella Ricker Award from the Women's Bar Association. In terms of serving justice, in addition to her exemplary work as a pro bono attorney, she's been a highly energetic and invaluable member of the campaign and served for many years as the chair of this event. For Marty, this was not just another box to check. I know how much she deeply believes in this work, and it inspired all of our work together. Her passion and commitment materially contributed to the campaign's success and has helped so many lives in our state. A few years ago, in a profile in New Hampshire magazine, she was asked to provide her favorite quotation. She selected the following from Brian Stevenson: "We all have a responsibility to create a just society." We all have a responsibility to create a just society. Having lived and modeled that ethic, Marty is the very worthy recipient of this year's John E. Tobin Jr. Justice Award. And having benefited from Marty's model and mentorship, it is a great personal honor for me to be able to present it to her. Unfortunately, Marty can't be with us today, but we have a very worthy stand-in, herself a leader in this cause, and accepting on behalf of Marty this morning is Emily Rice.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is very intimidating because although Marty is not here, she's out there somewhere in cyberspace. So I'm sure she heard all of the applause and is very, very grateful. I can't think of anybody any more deserving than Marty. She's very, very sorry that she's not able to be here today, but wanted me to extend her deep appreciation for the award and for the support of the campaign, and she hopes that your support will grow and be even stronger in 2022. So thank you very much. I want to end by introducing Megan Hilson, who is the co-chair of this year's campaign.
Thank you, Emily. Marty, congratulations. Your lifelong commitment to the principle of equal justice under law has inspired your friends and colleagues for many years. Your work has made New Hampshire a better and fairer place and inspired so many of us to do more. As a fellow graduate of Northeastern University School of Law, I am not surprised that you have made such an impact and created such a legacy. Thank you, Marty. Let's take a look at how our pledges are doing. Wow, it's great support. Let's keep it going. On behalf of the Campaign Leadership Council and my co-chair, Mike Delaney, thank you all so much for your generosity. Since 2019, I have been proud to support civil legal aid in New Hampshire as a member of the campaign's Leadership Council. When I first joined Brady Sullivan Properties, Arthur Sullivan and Shane Brady made clear through their own deep charitable commitments that philanthropy and community service are a cornerstone of their business. We are all encouraged to find and develop our own way of serving the community. And I would like to thank them for supporting and encouraging my work with the campaign. This morning, I have the privilege of introducing our keynote program, a virtual conversation between our local Access to Justice leaders and Douglas Emhoff, Second Gentleman of the United States. Mr. Emhoff has been an attorney for more than 30 years, primarily in private practice in California. As Second Gentleman, he left practice to teach the next generation of attorneys at Georgetown University Law School, and to use his position to bring attention to the issue of access to justice. He has convened legal aid listening sessions, visited pro bono clinics, and met with legal aid providers and their clients across the country to learn more about the inequities in the legal system and to hear how the pandemic has impacted access to justice. As the nation's first ever second gentleman, married to the first female vice president, Mr. Emhoff knows the power and importance of having women in leadership positions. Today, he'll be talking to two exceptional women leaders. Sonia Belafont is the founding executive director of 603 Legal Aid in Concord, New Hampshire. 603 Legal Aid was founded on June 1st, 2021, when the New Hampshire Pro Bono Program and the Legal Advice Referral Center merged. Prior to the founding of 603 Legal Aid, Sonia served as the director of the Tennessee Senior Law Alliance. Sarah Matson-Dustin became executive director of New Hampshire Legal Assistance in November 2018. Sarah has been with NHLA for about 14 years in total, working first as a staff attorney and Skadden Fellow, and later overseeing the organization's legislative and regulatory advocacy.
Good morning. Not only to all of you in the room, but good morning to the second gentleman, Douglas Emhoff. It is indeed our honor to host you and to thank you for lending your voice to the importance of access to justice. Now,
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Now,
It's my casual Zoom setup here.
He's already stealing the show. Goodness, how can we compete with this? At any rate, I have to admit, I did warn Sarah and several other people that I would be remiss if I did not recognize that as a result of the Vice President being in office, we are honored together, both she and I, to be part of the National Pan-Hellenic Council. And so please convey to your lovely wife and our amazing Vice President how honored I am to have her as the Vice President and a representative of the National Pan-Hellenic Council.
Well,
I will definitely do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Emhoff, we're so glad that Legal Aid has a champion in the White House. And could you tell all of us why you decided to make access to justice part of your work with the Biden-Harris administration?
Thank you. And first of all, thanks for having me. I wish I was there live, but I wasn't able to get there. But I appreciate this opportunity, and thanks again. So access to justice, it's not something that I just fell into when I became second gentleman. I started doing pro bono right as a first-year associate 30 plus years ago in Southern California. And it was something that was very important to me then, it's very important to me now. So as my career progressed, I went from handling cases, whether it was unlawful detainers, fraud cases, you name it, which was important to do for pro bono, but was also great for my development as an attorney. So I always talk to young lawyers, it's a great twofer. You can do great work for the community, but you can also develop as an attorney, and that's what I did. And then as I got more senior and got into law firm management and to the community, I started really helping organizations by raising money, which is so vital to these organizations, and then helping on boards and the like. And then I met then Attorney General Kamala Harris on a blind date. And one of the things that really kind of drew us together was this passion for justice. We both hate bullies. We both hate unfairness. And as we really got to know each other, that was one of the things that really drew us together. And then, of course, as I deepened our relationship and got married to the Attorney General then of California, I really got exposed to all the other issues that she had been working on as Attorney General, and that she had worked on as DA in San Francisco and as a frontline lawyer for 20 years. So it really all dovetailed as we got onto the campaign And I'll tell you, during the Biden-Harris campaign, traveling the country as I did, right in the depths of despair, if you remember what it was like in August, September, October of 2020, COVID raging, economy on the precipice of falling apart, boarded up buildings everywhere, domestic abuse survivors were literally locked in their homes with the people terrorizing them. So I really got to see firsthand what was going on, and you realize that us as lawyers, sometimes we're the last line of defense for people literally at risk of losing their lives. So when we got into office, it was just something so natural for me to continue what has essentially been a career-long path of a pro bono path and then a path as a civil litigator. It's a very long answer to a short question, but I really encourage all lawyers who are, especially if they're in private practice, to do both.
Great. So Sonia, what keeps you coming to work every day?
You know, that's a really good question. I know that many of my colleagues and a lot of associates and individuals I've met in New Hampshire probably believe it is the inspiration of working with all of our clients and the amazing paralegals, attorneys, support staff, and administrators in the civil legal aid network, not only here in New Hampshire, but across the country. But to be perfectly frank, I have a personal interest in access to justice, and if I may give you a little bit of a story there, I personify the importance of access to justice. As one of 3 children raised by a single parent who did not graduate high school in the city of Detroit, Michigan, of all cities, statistically, myself and my 2 sisters should not be where we are. As a result of an attorney advocating for her in the 1970s, she was able to secure a divorce and the safety for her and her 3 young children. But it doesn't stop there. After educating my mother about her rights and empowering her, he then planted a seed, or if I may, what I like to say is he pretty much tossed a rock into a body of water, and that resulted in multiple ripples, and that's how we came to be who we are today. And when I say who we are today, as a result of that attorney, good housing, credible public education, and to be perfectly frank, public benefits, my mother as a single parent was able to provide housing, food, and some of our basic necessities in a very challenging time as a single parent. Consequently, there are 3 women today who have defied the statistics. I sit before you as the first-generation attorney in my family. My younger sister is a first-generation teacher with a master's degree, and my older sister has worked for General Motors in Detroit, Michigan for more than 25 years. Clearly, without that attorney and those ripples, the generations that were impacted by that attorney, that advocacy, and that education would not have given us the platform we are standing on. And may I add one other thing, if I may? And I'm not trying to steal the show. But the other thing I'd like to add is access to justice and education, it provides so much of an opportunity that things like public benefits, fair housing, give the adult clients the ability to turn around and use those resources to elevate themselves as well. So my mother went on to get her GED. She then got a bachelor's degree before I graduated high school. That is what inspires me, in addition to standing next to people who I work with and that you work with and that represent the interest of those who are low income, vulnerable, and marginalized, not only in the state of New Hampshire, but in this country. And it's a daunting task. That inspiration keeps me going every day.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because meeting frontline, I call the lawyers frontline workers too. Traveling around as I have, a lot of what I've done is just doing sit-downs with public law firms all over the country. So if I was traveling to do a vaccination event, I would try to meet with lawyers who were on the front lines. And you really saw what you're talking about, especially during COVID. Literally, like I said earlier, standing between somebody being evicted, somebody being denied their benefits at work. And as I mentioned, the really tough situations of literally being stuck in a house with an abuser and being able to turn to lawyers who were there all through the pandemic, working night and day, and through tough circumstances with courts closed, their offices closed, trying to do these things over Zoom when it's difficult enough to do it in person. And I just can't thank everyone enough who does this work day in and day out, sometimes with not a lot of pay and not a lot of notoriety, and but the clients know, and it changes lives. And for you to sit before us telling your story, that's what it's all about. So thanks for sharing that.
My pleasure.
And to all of you here, we want you to know how important the resources that the campaign raises are to the program's ability to deliver on our promise of being part of Access to Justice in New Hampshire. We strive to provide a comprehensive array of services. That might be a pamphlet so that someone can have information about their rights. That might be representation in an administrative law proceeding, a telephone consultation with an attorney or a paralegal, or it might be class action litigation. And without the flexible resources that the campaign provides, we would not be able, as a network of legal aid providers, to be truly responsive to the needs in our community. So we're very happy when the thermometer is going up, and want you to know that the money that we raise here today really makes a huge difference.
You know what? I think it's a good time to share some of the services that that people are calling about, particularly now that we're seeing the pandemic, and actually have seen it for a couple of years. So perhaps when we talk about basic necessities, as Courtney and Megan and Chief Justice Gordon MacDonald referenced, let's kind of put it in a little bit of context, if you don't mind. Many of the staff that work with both Sarah and I, they're fielding calls from people who are desperately trying to retain their housing at a time when they could not get out to work. So getting access to important resources that can help them keep that housing at a time when rental housing is very difficult to attain and the costs are rising up is imperative. Kind of speaks to my sharing a moment ago about the importance of being in a good location and good education. What about tax concerns? We're seeing some individuals who are calling us needing access to the stimulus payments that were offered. We're trying to navigate a tax debt. We're also seeing people who are calling and they're concerned about unemployment issues. Either how do they get access to that unemployment because they just cannot bring themselves to go into their place of employment because of a chronic health issue, or because they're risking exposing someone who's very vulnerable in their home, like a senior, to COVID if they actually were going out into the workforce. As Mr. Emhoff has referenced, of course, there are those who were shut in during the pandemic and who are incredibly vulnerable because they are suffering under some domestic violence. And how do we help those survivors move on to a better life with safety for themselves and their families? I, of course, would be remiss if we didn't talk about some things like home ownership and the challenges homeowners are looking at, again, during the pandemic. How do they meet those property tax debts, or how do they make their mortgage payments, again, during a time when our economy has been incredibly adversely impacted?
Mr. Emhoff, as you've traveled around the country and had the opportunity to talk with legal aid providers and with clients, what are some of the interesting innovations that you've seen in terms of how civil legal aid has responded to the unique pressures of the pandemic?
Well, we mentioned Zoom. It's probably, for the most part, has really helped folks get more access to lawyers on most of the basic issues. I think it's also, you mentioned tax and family law. One of the things I've always talked about is I think in my generation, everyone thought pro bono was just litigation and disputes. But now we're seeing all kinds of different work, corporate, family law, tax planning, as you mentioned, and that enables a lot more lawyers from the private sector to do pro bono. And if you're able to do it over Zoom, you can, see a lot more clients and this and that. On the flip side, we mentioned the domestic abuse. We mentioned it was tougher to seek injunctions and all the things that you really need to go to court for. Those issues obviously were tougher during the pandemic. But I think as lawyers, also on the civil side, we've all learned that Zoom and doing things like this, you can do more, be more effective, be more efficient on most of the tasks that we do as lawyers. So I'd say that's probably been the best innovation moving forward. And again, it has enabled much more participation from the private sector on pro bono help. Obviously, we all need to do more. That's one of the things I learned with the listening sessions that I've done all over the country. You mentioned the campaign and financial resources, so that's always an issue, and also just getting folks to participate and volunteer their time. And it's something that I talk to law firms about as well, and law students and young associates. Just make sure that the firms are open to giving attorneys the ability to do as much pro bono as they can, and also calling on general counsel's offices in the corporate sector. Lots of lawyers there, and they need to do their pro bono as well. So encouraging GCs and corporations who have legal counsel, they can do pro bono as well, and a lot of that can be on the corporate tax side. So that's my message to the legal community.
Well, thank you for that message. As a big fan of pro bono at 603 Legal Aid, we underscore that suggestion. If I may, allow me to ask my first question to Mr. Emhoff, if I may.
Go ahead.
So in the past 2.5 years, we've experienced what has been probably the most unlike any other situation in our lifetime. What do you believe we as a society, we've learned from the pandemic and about how civil legal aid needs affect the daily life and the basic human needs?
Yeah, it's really incredible how much it does. And you mentioned a lot of the issues that have been laid bare by the pandemic. What I've said, and I think this is, I know others have said it, but so many things that were bad in our society were made unbelievably worse due to the pandemic. It just really laid bare a lot of the inequality and the inequities in our system. And so much of that can and is addressed by lawyers. And again, bringing it back to my wife, she's talked to me about why she became a lawyer. She came out of the civil rights milieu in Northern California and was so inspired by Thurgood Marshall and others. There's a statue of Thurgood Marshall in her office here at the White House. And she always said, and it's so true today, that one of the best ways to just take what's happening out in the world and try to make it make sense and make it more just and make it more fair is through lawyers. And that's why she became a lawyer. And that's one of the reasons I became a lawyer and stayed a lawyer all these years, is because you actually have the ability to do something. And you actually have the ability to not only help people on day-to-day problems, whether they need benefits, whether they're going to be evicted unjustly, whether they're victimized by an abuser, all things that were made worse during COVID, but also the ability to impact change in the courts and influence people on a large level. And as we see in our society today with what's going on, that mission for us lawyers is stronger than ever. And that's why I'm proud to still be a lawyer. And it's something that I love, and I just bring to almost everything I do as second gentleman representing this administration. And I'll continue to do that as long as I can.
We really appreciate hearing from you about how the private bar can contribute to these efforts, not just financially, but through their expertise and their talents. And our response in New Hampshire as a legal aid community to the pandemic would have looked really different without the participation of the private bar, whether that was NHLA and 603 Legal Aid working together to put on a CLE about unemployment insurance cases, which many private attorneys stepped up to take, or in the earliest days of the pandemic, NHLA received some quick stimulus funding. Really not enough time for us to be able to go out and hire attorneys. And I made 3 phone calls to 3 law firms who all said, yes, we will find an associate and we will send that associate to you for the next several months to do eviction defense, to do unemployment insurance appeals. I think it was one of the most singularly gratifying moments of my professional life to have the McLean firm, the Sheehan Finney firm, the Rath Young and Pignatelli firm say, yes, what do you need? The private bar in New Hampshire is just extraordinarily committed over a long time to being part of this effort, not just financially, but working directly with clients. So we hope that you'll continue to inspire them to that incredible level of service.
I couldn't agree more. As a new member of the community here in New Hampshire, I can't even begin to discuss or to even measure the wealth of support we receive from the court to the New Hampshire Bar Association to community partners as we work really diligently to meet the demand that we're seeing across the country and in the state with those who are vulnerable. But you raised something else a moment ago, and I'm looking at you, but I actually meant the second gentleman, because you talked about Georgetown University earlier and the students that you are impacting, the law students, and talking about the work that needs to be done. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say there are a couple of things that if I were able to influence, the students who attend Georgetown Law School, there's a couple of things I might be inclined to share with them. One of them would be to really focus on poverty law and the impact they could have with that foundational knowledge, to learn about the imbalances and the inconsistencies between how various racial groups are treated and how that impacts our economic status, our income, and our housing. I would encourage them to remember that knowledge is power. So being an advocate as an attorney is amazing, but being able to educate and empower every individual they come in contact with that knowledge continues that ripple effect. Cultivating an education that promotes things like fairness, equality, equity, and rights on multiple aspects of society are also ways to do that. And some of these things, admittedly, probably not going to see in a con law textbook, or you may not see in, property or torts. Some of these things are real life.
Mr. Emhoff, what are you telling the next generation of lawyers? How are you inspiring them to continue the support for civil legal aid and access to justice as the next generation of practitioners?
If I may.
Please.
Before you answer that question, I see that we have run out of time.
We have run out of time? Make him answer. Okay. All right.
I can answer.
Yes, please.
I will answer that question.
Okay.
Do I have time?
We're going to make time.
I'm getting a thumbs up from the various people.
They're giving us the thumbs up. We're giving you the thumbs up.
Yes. I'm not leaving until I answer this question. No, thank you for that. I am very fortunate to be teaching at Georgetown Law School as second gentleman. Like I said, I love being a lawyer. I miss the day-to-day of doing that, but obviously this is such an incredible opportunity to be second gentleman and continue to advocate for justice. But to be able to be at law school with students and being able to just get to know them and talk to them, and a lot of the action and the interactions of how they're feeling and trying to influence them to do pro bono and to pay it back with, as you're suggesting, and mentorship as they move on in their careers. I do a lot of Zoom office hours with them, and now that we're back live, I try to spend as much time as I can in between class, before class, and after class, and even staying in touch with students that I had last year who are out practicing. And it's just been, really rewarding for me to be able to, after all these years as a lawyer, to have take a breath and be able to be in this role. But every time I talk to them, I tell them they have the same responsibility to keep mentoring and keep staying in touch with this next generation of lawyers. They were there for me all those years ago in Los Angeles and stayed with me. And then in turn, I've tried to mentor and stay in touch with as many as I can. And I think as lawyers that it's an obligation that we all must have and must share and must take on. Again, it's not just about billing hours and making money and moving up the ranks to partner and then some. That's important. However, it's also important to take two tracks. And that's my message to my students, and it's my message to everyone out there. And it's the same message that I followed myself. You can do both. You can succeed in the law firm world and as a practitioner, as I thought I did, but also go down the public service path as well, contribute to your community. It's rewarding, and it also helps, as I started with, it helped me become a better lawyer, being able to do pro bono cases as a junior lawyer. It helped me get involved in the community when I was involved with the pro bono community in public service, but that's also helps you build out your networks. So it's good on all accounts. And so I encourage my students, I encourage all the lawyers out there and anyone watching the live stream, more pro bono. It's good for your community, it's good for your career, it's good for society, and we need to help these folks who are frontline workers. They are putting themselves right on the front lines, literally standing between folks who could literally die, but for a lawyer, helping them receive benefits, stay in a home, receive food, get away from somebody terrorizing them. It's that important. So please support the folks doing public interest law on the front lines. They need us and we need them.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate this opportunity. I really do. And I wish I was there in person. Hope to get up there soon. But thank you so much for all the work you're doing. And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, get back in position. Excuse me. Mr. Emhoff, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the work you've been doing to bring more attention to the justice gap, and thank you for your work teaching and training the lawyers of tomorrow. Sarah and Sonia, our state is so fortunate to have leaders like you. Thank you. We've been streaming to you live here from the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College. Thanks to the technical team and expertise of Martin Lyons, Chase Clark, and the rest of the team from Events United. I must also thank the director of the campaign, Sarah Palermo. Wherever she is, I hope she'll stand up. I need to thank Sarah for her tremendous efforts in bringing today's event to life. It is only through her dedication, vision, and exceptionally hard work that we have been able to join together this morning to champion civil legal aid in New Hampshire. Lastly, thank you, all of you, who have been part of this incredible outpouring of support we have seen for these vital programs and the clients they serve. Together, you rose to the challenge and beyond. We all look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.